Huge elements to the story. Firstly, Sinner testing positive twice for a banned substance.
I kept playing tennis because in my mind I knew that I haven't done anything wrong.
Breaking news have emerged from the tennis world over the last few days, something that absolutely no one had in the radar. The current world number one, Jannik Sinner, who had tested positive in anti-doping controls twice in March, has now been declared innocent after a successful appeal, and we knew absolutely nothing about it. Having won the Cincinnati Masters in the lead-up to the US Open, it seemed like everything marched well for the Italian. However, the day after he finished his campaign in Cincy, the case was made public once he and his team had won their appeal. Understandably, this has had a lot of repercussions, not only in the tennis world, but in the sports world in general. How could nobody know about this? How could he not be suspended after testing positive for a banned substance? These are the doubts we all had at the very beginning that are now slowly being cleared. For those of you who don't know, players are forced to go through rigorous doping tests, both in tournament and out of tournament. They are regularly tested to protect the integrity of the sport and prevent them from taking advantage with the ingestion of certain drugs that increase their physical capabilities. Usually, players undergo either blood or urine tests, and their samples are split into two different tubes. One of the tubes is tested by an accredited laboratory, and if a prohibited substance is found, it is reported as an adverse analytical finding. Once this happens, the player is notified and given the option to have the other tube tested. As soon as the positive test is confirmed, provisional suspensions enter the game, at least until there has been an appeal. Then, there's an investigation, held by an independent anti-doping review board, after which a decision is made based on evidence. Evidence is provided by the athlete to prove unintentional ingestion or contamination. The decision can go from fines to years of suspension. Once the decision has been made, other appeals can be made as part of the process, but of course it takes time. Sinner's drama started in March this year, during the BNP Paribas Open, held in Indian Wells. In one of the urine tests he underwent, a banned substance was detected, clostebol, an anabolic steroid that is known to have performance-enhancing effects. It was a very little amount, a billionth of a gram, which according to experts could not have had any effects on his performances around that time. However, it was still a banned substance that was detected in his test, so the procedure continued. What's more, 8 days after the first positive test, an out-of-competition sample also came back positive for the same substance. When both results came out, around April, Sinner was notified and provisionally suspended for about a week, when the European clay court tournaments were being played, specifically before the Madrid Open. However, even though he was technically suspended, he did not miss any tournaments. And this is where Sinner's appeal comes into play. Of course, he and his team didn't accept the suspension. As a result, following the ITF rules announced in 2016, which say that if a player does not accept a provisional suspension, the test will not be made public until a resolution has been reached by the final tribunal. Nobody got to know about what was going on because it was being investigated. Sinner's appeal basically mentioned that the positive test was due to unintentional contamination from his physiotherapist. It turns out that his physio, Giacomo Naldi, had a cut in one of his fingers. In order to treat it, he used a spray that contained clostebol, which is easily available in pharmacies in Italy. Not being aware that the spray contained a banned substance, he then treated Sinner without wearing gloves. After multiple skin lessons, Jannik's body was eventually contaminated with a very small amount of the substance, which might have entered his body as a consequence of a skin condition that he suffers from. Of course, over these days, a lot has been said, and one needs to be careful with the information. Still, we know for a fact that Sinner's case is not the first one among Italian sportspeople who have tested positive for the same substance. Clostebol is nothing new. In fact, decades ago, it was used by some German football clubs to enhance their players' performance. That, however, was no longer the case until a few years ago, when the drug reappeared in Italy's sporting landscape. Even though it is no longer produced the way it was back in the day, from 2018 onwards, a lot of Italian athletes started testing positive for that substance. Most of them, some which are very renowned, have managed to successfully explain how the substance accidentally entered their body and therefore avoid any suspensions. Another fact is that clostebol detection methods have now become more sensitive as science has advanced. Hence, a very little amount of the drug, that is even too small to have any performance-enhancing effects, can now be detected. This makes the doping controls a lot more rigorous, as an accidental contact with the substance, like apparently happened to Sinner, can come back as a positive result. In fact, most of the Italian athletes involved in this drama, including Sinner, managed to explain how it was a consequence of bad handling of these creams and sprays from people around them, which resulted in unintentional contamination of their bodies. I know, it is weird, absolutely, but nobody was able to prove any of these cases happened on purpose. According to the World Anti-Doping Agency, half of the world's clostebol positive cases come from Italy. A few years ago, something similar happened with Russian athletes. Maria Sharapova, the tennis superstar, was involved among many others, and apparently it was because of a heart medication, meldonium, which contained banned substances. The medication was widely available in Russia, unlike in the rest of the world, and many athletes were caught in anti-doping tests because of how easy to access it was, combined with the fact that they apparently didn't know about its effects. In 2016, the medication was eventually banned. The point is that, in these cases that involve a geographical region, the banned substance must be easily reachable. In Italy, Clostebol can be purchased without prescription. It is mostly available as a cream, which is used to treat abrasions, lesions, burns, and infected wounds. The fact that it is used so much around the country puts Italian athletes at risk. They must be very careful, not only themselves but their teams as well, of how they manage these kinds of products. What is most suspicious is that the cream is sold, by law, in a packaging that warns that the product contains doping. So how are the people involved not more cautious? Given the relevance of this news, a lot of players had their say on the matter. Most of them were very critical towards both Sinner and the ITF's management of the case. Denis Shapovalov was among the first ones to express himself on X, posting, "Can't imagine what every other player that got banned for contaminated substances is feeling right now," followed by, "Different rules for different players." One must say he's got a point there. Of course, rules are rules, and Sinner's case was not made public because there was a rule that prevented that from happening. However, there have been multiple cases of players in similar situations who have been banned for multiple months that might definitely feel extremely disappointed. Their feeling must be that Sinner, because he is a top player, got special treatment and avoided any further action, when some of them, in similar cases, received big suspensions. Of course, Sinner's appeal was accepted, but why wasn't this the case with the other players, who also argued that they were unintentionally contaminated with similar amounts of similar substances? No matter what ranking the player has, rules and criteria should be the same for everyone. Then, as it couldn't be any other way, Nick Kyrgios also had his say, also via X. Ridiculous, whether it was accidental or planned. You get tested twice with a banned steroid substance. You should be gone for 2 years. Your performance was enhanced. Massage cream. Yeah, nice. As we are used to, he was a lot more controversial with his words, but basically made the same point as Shapovalov. Other players such as Lucas Pouille and Kamil Matrzak, who was suspended for 13 months due to a doping case some time ago, also expressed their opinions on social media, among others. So the question now is, what is next for Jannik Sinner? One can't help but to think how this will affect his career. Wanted or not, before this drama, he was one of the most likable guys on tour, not only because of his game, but because of his composure and behavior. However, even though he was proved innocent and is cleared to play, this will inevitably have an impact on people's opinion about him. He still hasn't spoken to the media since everything went viral. All we've gotten from him so far is the media statement on his social media. What will happen when he steps back on a packed tennis court to play his first round match at the US Open is a big question mark. Will he be received warmly, accepting that he is innocent, or will he be booed and treated like a cheater? That's something that at least I never thought could happen, but things have occurred, so we'll see what the people's reaction to this case is, and whether it has any impact on his results. Hopefully, this situation does not ruin his career, but most importantly, let's hope it does not have any impact on his mental health. Wanted or not, the amount of hate messages and stuff he must be receiving must be insane. So he better be surrounded by his team and family, and receive their help to cope with everything that he must be going through. What are your thoughts on Jannik Sinner's case? Let's discuss in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss any of the upcoming ones. You can also check our feed and watch some of our older videos. Being it for today, thanks for watching and see you soon for a new one.